In order for all of us to truly experience unity together, to be together and united, I think that only happens when we really take the time to learn from and understand those who are different than you.
In this edition of The Color Between the Lines, I'm speaking with New York Times bestselling author Tami Charles, whose latest picture book, Together United, closes her celebrated All Because You Matter trilogy. It's a lyrical call for unity, love, and understanding, a message that feels especially powerful right now. Tami shares how her son inspired this journey and what it was like collaborating with the illustrator Brian Collier, and why she believes real change starts when we listen to those whose experiences differ than our own. How would you describe, I guess, the biggest differences in the message of this new book compared to your first book?
Oh, big difference between this last one. So, this first book, that's my baby on the cover. He doesn't really look like that anymore. He's 15 now. But this book sprung out of a question that my son had in kindergarten. It was about Dr. King. He wanted to know why the bad guys hurt Dr. King. So it started here as a love letter, a conversation with my little one about unfairness, injustice. How do you kick off these conversations? I wanted to write a book from a place of love and belonging. And then this one shines a light on history. I take it a little further here. I mention all the ways that Black culture has really touched every corner of the globe, from style and art and our food and inventions, and of course Dr. King is in here. I think the biggest difference is in these first two books, I'm really spotlighting Black culture. In this book, I'm inviting everyone in, and they were invited here too. Okay. But I think the deeper message is that in order for all of us to truly experience unity together, to be together and united, I think that only happens when we really take the time to learn from and understand those who are different than you, a different walk of life, a different faith or culture. So, in order for us to truly reach unity, we have to address those who are marginalized, who may not have had the same opportunities that others have had. So, in this book, these two books, I'm really spotlighting, culture, history, legacy. By the way, a legacy that all of us enjoy, no matter the background. But in this one, we've got everyone. Now that we've addressed this, now let's be together. Let's continue the dialogue. I see this every time I go to a school. I see what unity looks like in today's classrooms. The children are learning together, they're playing together. It's really my vision for the world. So that's how the first two books are a little separate and they're their own conversation piece. And this one is the one that brings it all together.
When you have a young reader read this book, what are you hoping that they get from it or feel from it versus the first book?
Oh, with Together United, my hope is that they recognize the gift that they currently have right now. There's a part of the book, if I may share.
Mhm.
Um, it's this spread. Brian Collier is the illustrator, and what he does so beautifully with the art is he takes a classroom of children, multicultural classroom. He takes a classroom and pulls them out of their everyday classroom, their four walls, and brings them on a trip to the planetarium. You remember what it was like going on a class trip? It was fascinating. But when they go to the planetarium, they actually get a chance to see just how massive the universe is, and they're looking up at the planets and the stars, and they're envisioning themselves and realizing, wow, this universe is so big. There's a place for you and you and you and all of us. But My favorite part in the book is where I write, and Brian Collier just, he goes crazy with the art here. It's so whimsical. Our gifts shine bright for all to see. Me, I am poetry. Justice in action, amor on the page. I write words with love to remind you you matter today and always. Oh, but you? Who else could dare do the things you do? Your voice is your power, conductor of peace, a smooth melody over a jazz beat. Magnetic, kinetic, definitely prophetic. You inspire everyone you meet. So, what I'm doing there is I'm reminding children of the gifts that they have. It could be anything. I get kids who ask, well, how can I be an author? You have a story in you right now. Doesn't take much. Grab a pen, grab a pad, start writing. Everyone has a gift. It's our job at some point, after nurturing those gifts, to share it. And what happens when we come together and we bring our gifts together, that's where, it becomes explosive, almost like the Big Bang. That's where the magic happens. So that's kind of like my wish for the kids, is for them to see their own gifts and for them to be open to sharing that with others.
How did you and the illustrator connect for the first book? I noticed his style really reflected an eclectic, um, really on like a collage
Yeah.
style. And was that something that attracted you to him, or was this a meeting where somebody put you together? How'd that all happen?
Publishing is, it's a wild ride, because typically when a picture book author writes the text and they send it off to the publisher then selects who they want to illustrate.
Hey, if this conversation resonates with you, please do me a favor and subscribe to The Color Between the Lines. Your support really helps me continue sharing stories like these. And I'm so close to reaching 2,000 subscribers by December, and every click gives us one step closer to that goal. So hit that subscribe button, and please, let's keep growing together.
And we're never supposed to talk. And it's fair because no one told me how to write the story. I shouldn't tell him how to draw the art based upon how he envisions it from my words. So it's a mutual respect that we have. But this was a different case, because when this book was pitched, Scholastic asked me, who do you envision as the artist for this? I had already had a dream that it was Brian's art because I've been a fan of his for so long. And when I told them that, they said, "Oh, we can make that happen." So Brian knew that All Because You Matter was a dream that I had, of all the things that I would say to my son during those moments where he had big questions about the world. He took the opportunity to say, "I want to meet your son. Let's have a photo shoot." So we met at a library in upstate New York, and he did a photo shoot with my son. And he did all of the watercolor and collage based upon his pictures. That has never happened, at least for me. And it's certainly not typical in our industry. Usually the artist works on their own, and I just see it when it's done. But it was really, really special to be a part of the art, boots on the ground. It was great.
Mhm. Well, this book, you have such a lyrical, poetic flow. You use Latin words within it, and you have colloquial words that Black folks use all the time in our language. Can you walk us, I guess, through your process of creating that poetic flow for Together United? And how many drafts did it take to get you to the point where you felt like, now I got it?
Oh, so Together United, I had a totally different manuscript. And now looking back, it was horrible. I had an easier time with the first two books. And by the way, as a side note, I love sprinkling languages into my work. You'll see Spanish words sprinkled. You'll see Tagalog in this too. I use the phrase mahal kita, which means I love you. Growing up, I had a one of my best friends was Filipino. I wanted to make sure that, you know, she could see herself in there, right? And then you go to this one, there's French in here, there's Portuguese. My goal was to really show that the global nature of, of us. I wanted to really honor these different cultures by sprinkling in their languages. But oh my gosh, by the time I got to this, I think I must have rewritten this about 3 or 4 times. It was very difficult. But it also speaks to, unity is not easy, right? Coming together isn't easy. And the goal isn't so much uniformity and sameness, right? The goal is to recognize our differences and really, really listen and try to come together on a common ground. So yeah, it was tough.
Mm.
But I think I finally got it right after like the third or fourth revision.
Well, I was looking back at doing research on you, and I saw that All Because You Matter debuted in 2020, and it was really embraced. It was celebrated. People were excited about it.
Mhm.
And then now today, we fast forward to today, 2025. Some books, like your books with similar themes, face criticism for
Yeah.
being too woke. And how does it feel, I guess, to see that, once you put in so much work and see that shift, did it affect the way you wrote this book or not?
Hmm. I'd be lying if I said it didn't affect me. But here's the thing. I know my purpose. If I only wrote with numbers in mind and stickers and bestseller this and awards, if I only wrote with that in mind, then I'm not fulfilling my purpose. So I'm not going to say I don't care. Of course, you want broad reach, wide reach, but the real work is who I'm writing for. I'm writing for children, and my job is to inspire them and fill them with hope. New York Times bestseller, that was a cherry on top. But that same book that hit the list was challenged in a few states. Even earlier this year, there was a school district that for the Great African American Read-In Waterloo, Iowa, they picked up 3,000, I think 3,500 copies for the students, and then they didn't give them the books because they feared criticism because of, anti-DEI initiatives and, really this call to kind of strip our country of diversity, so it seems. Um, so how did that feel? It didn't feel nice. But one thing I love about us is that they try to bury us, right? But little do they know we are seeds. So the very district, and honestly, I wasn't upset at the district. I understood because Waterloo is actually largely an African American district. Um, but Nicole Hannah-Jones, Pulitzer Prize winner. She is from Waterloo. She did something incredible by creating her own African American read-in right there in Waterloo. She invited me, she invited two other incredible authors, Jacqueline Woodson and Derek Barnes. She invited Jason Reynolds. He appeared virtually. She drew a crowd of thousands looking into that audience. When I tell you every color, every race, every walk of life, they were there in the name of books. They were there to raise their voices against book and how damaging that can be to our kids. When you ban books or when you challenge books, you're limiting not just our kids, our Black children, you're limiting a child from, really understanding what other people live like, what they experience in their lives, you're really limiting their worldview. So awards, cool, but reaching those who really need to see themselves or at least step into the world of someone different, something that will help them become a better human, that's the real reward for me.
Awesome.
Mm.
I know that this is the third in a trilogy, and it's kind of like your closing chapter. Is it bittersweet that this is the finally ending, or is this kind of a relief?
It's happy sad. I'm happy that the entire trilogy is out. I'm happy that people who have been there from the beginning will now see what I was trying to do all along, which is create 3 books that make a very profound statement that all because you matter, we are here together, united. I wanted that. I saw it, not in the beginning, but somewhere, some way midpoint, I saw the bigger picture. So I'm happy that new readers get to discover this series. But the sad part is like, it started with my baby and he's not a baby anymore. He's in high school. So, but again, back to happy is that a new generation will get to read it. I hope I've created something that my son will share with his children and his children will share with their children, something that will outlive and outlast me, but hopefully the message will always be there.
It's funny because you talk about that, and I was thinking about my son and his own growth and everything else. And I think that parents, we when we go through the journey, we're going through our toughness, and it's difficult, but we always at the end we look back and appreciate all those tough times and all the challenges because we learned something from it.
Do. And my son teaches me new things every day.
Well, you're right that children being artists, being dreamers, being scientists, revolutionaries.
Mhm.
And what advice do you have for young people who want to use their gifts to make a difference today?
My advice is to take the gift that you have right now. You don't need to wait. When I was a kid, I so desperately wanted to be an author, but I didn't think it was possible. I had never met an author. How could I be something that I couldn't see? I didn't read a lot of books that featured kids from my community. Again, that representation, that lack of access. There, that kind of like put my dream in a pocket. I don't want today's children to feel that way. I want them to see that they can be the author of their own story right now. Pick up the paper, pick up the pen, begin. It's already in you. Your gift is right there. Nurture it, feed it like a plant. And when you're ready, when it blossoms, you share it with the world.
And finally, where can people find you with all the work that you're doing? Perhaps reach out to you and give feedback about the book, or maybe even invite you to come take and speak to them.
I would love that. They can follow me on Instagram at Tami Writes. That's TamiWrites, or they can visit my website, TamiWrites.com.
Tami Charles reminds us that unity begins with empathy and that every voice, no matter how small, has the power to create change. Her new book, Together United, is available wherever books are sold. I'm Esther Dillard, and this is The Color Between the Lines. If you enjoyed this conversation, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because your story and the stories we share here truly matter.